Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're on the Isle of Portland in Dorset. The actual island itself is about 4 miles long and 1.7 miles wide, connected to Weymouth on the mainland by Chesil Beach. And we're going to be walking a roughly 5-mile circular route around the top half of Portland. We walked the bottom half a couple of years ago. Do check out that video. And we'll be wandering along sections of the southwest coast path on both the east and west sides of the island. It's technically a tide island. We'll be exploring a ruined castle, a ruined church, passing by a couple of prisons, and certainly we'll be enjoying some amazing views and a few other interesting things along the way. Now I'm filming at the beginning of June. The sun is out, there's a lot of blue sky. Should be perfect conditions for walking. Do come along with us. Well, I've parked my car at the New Grounds car park on the northern side of the island. It's free parking. And well, you can see we're beginning our walk by the iconic Olympic rings, which you can see just behind me. And of course the Olympic sailing events were held at Weymouth in July and August 2012, mostly on the eastern side. And Great Britain had a lot of success with 1 gold and 4 silver medals in the sailing. Gold went to Ben Ainsley in the Finn class. And these rings here, which were originally located outside Weymouth railway station during the games, were moved up here permanently after the actual games had finished. And they're 2.5 metres tall and 3.8 metres long and weigh about 9 tonnes. Well, you certainly get some great views up here by the Olympic rings. Looking to the north, there's the magnificent Chesil Beach and the A354 road that we came into Portland on. And then further north, of course, there's Weymouth, and just to the right there, Weymouth Bay. Well, just behind me here is a very impressive war memorial. That's going to be our starting point for the walk. From here, we're going to initially head eastwards. Well, shall we have a look to see what our friend Sir Frederick Treves had to say about Portland in his 1906 book, Highways and Byways in Dorset? Well, he can be quite entertaining at times, but also he can be quite rude. Indeed, he described the Isle of Portland as a dismal heap of stones standing out into the sea. Oh dear. And then he went on to say, "The chief town of Portland is Fortune's Well. The name suggests a glen full of trees and dripping ferns, where timid maidens come to learn of the future by peering into pellucid pools. Portland encourages no such mawkish fancy as this. The capital is like the island, ugly. Its ugliness is vaunted with so little shame as to be nearly immodest." Well, Sir Frederick was never afraid to speak his mind, but well, as I think we'll find out in our walk, he may have been a little bit unkind and unfair about the area. Well, I continue to make my way eastwards and just looking to the north, and well, this is over to the sort of northwest. Some cracking views of Chesil Beach down there, and then just over to my right we can get our first sighting of the Verne, which is the highest point on Portland. Well, this in front of me here is a part of the Verne, which was built between 1857 and 1881 as part of the defences of Portland Harbour below. It's well, naturally inaccessible from the north and the east, and the south and west sides were protected by a ditch. It had gun emplacements on the north, east and west, and in 1903 it became an infantry barracks, and then in the First World War and Second World War it was the headquarters of Coastal Battery. A rotor air defence radar station was installed within the citadel in the Second World War, known as RAF Portland. That bit was actually sold by the Ministry of Defence in 2011. After the Second World War it was used by the Royal Engineers, and then in 1949 it was turned into a prison. I believe in 2013 it briefly became an immigration centre, but in 2018 it reverted back to being a prison. I think it's a prison for sex offenders now, I'm not 100% sure. Well, we're still going eastwards, making our way towards the southwest coast path, but this I had to show you, it's just to the south of Verne, and it's something called the High Angle Battery, built in 1892 and used to fire howitzer shells high into the air that then dropped onto the decks of ships. Ships were ironclad in those days, and the deck area was the most vulnerable part. And I think there were 6 guns here with a range of 6 miles, I think, but the batteries were decommissioned in 1906. Well, let's go for a little exploration. It's great that so much of it is still here, that you can wander around. Got to be a bit careful, there's quite a bit of broken glass on the ground, so be careful for Logan's feet, but it was certainly a great place to have it, that's for sure, well protected. What have we got in here? This looks a little bit spooky. I'm guessing this was there's the remains of a little tramway track, which presumably went off to a magazine somewhere. And presumably this was the base for one of the guns. Look at the size of those bolts, huge. Goodness me, what on earth are those? I don't think Logan's ever seen one of those before. He's not sure. We don't get many of these in the New Forest, do we? Well, folks, we've made it to the eastern side of the island. Isn't the sea looking quite gloriously blue today? So over to the left there is obviously Weymouth Bay and the Jurassic Coast in the distance there, which we've done so many walks on, looking quite hazy. And then just panning across, look at the sunshine glinting on the water there. So calm today. While continuing to head southwards on the southwest coast path, enjoying some quite beautiful views over to my left. But to my right, it's my second prison of the walk, and it's the Grove. Now, a prison was opened here in 1848 called Portland Prison, I think, and it converted to a borstal in 1921, and it became a young offenders institution in 1988. It reverted to the original use and name as a youth and adult prison in 2011. Interesting, just by it there's a lovely church, St Peter's Church. It's actually private, but I'll mention it anyway. It was built in 1870, 1872 using convict labour. It was made redundant in 1973, but retained as a chapel for the prison until 1988, I think. As I say, it's now private. I think it had a fire in 2023, and it's been gradually declining since, I believe. I'm not 100% sure of its present situation. Oh, I keep having to stop to take in some of these views. There's a whopping big ship just about to come into Portland Harbour there. And down below, I think that structure there is the back of a firing range. Not absolutely certain about that. Now, this is an interesting part of the route because the signpost there says the coast path goes down to the right, but there's also a sign there that indicates it's quite rocky. I think we'll stay at a higher level just for a little bit longer and join the path later on. Oh, another important part of the route for folk that might be doing this walk. Look out for the Southwest Coast Path sign here, which I managed to miss. And I've added another 10 minutes to my walk going up and down here. But anyway, there it is. Oh, another lovely little spot for a view. Look at that little cove down there. I just love the colour of the water. And then just a little bit further along, looking out, a couple of boats bobbing out on the sea there. What's that down below? I think that could be a pillbox, you know, right by the water's edge. Certainly looks like one from up here. Oh, our first sighting of the lighthouse right at the southern end of Portland. We won't be going that far on this walk, but we have been there before, as I mentioned earlier when we did our walk around the southern part of the island. Now, this magnificent castle here is Rufus Castle, also known as Bow and Arrow Castle. Now, originally there was a castle built here by the Normans named after William II, of course, Rufus, but it was lost to erosion or collapse, and the existing castle was built between 1432 and 1460. And it's a sort of pentagon shape with the wall 7 foot thick in places, and the remains appear to be a keep of a stronghold. There's no actual public access, it's privately owned. And just below the castle, down there, is a pretty little cove, and that's our next destination. Oh my goodness, look at this. Isn't this beautiful? Church Ope Cove. We've had a bit of a climb to get down here, but oh, it was certainly worth it. And there are little bits of sandy parts of the beach, which I think one of the rare sandy bits on the island. Presumably the That's why the castle was built high above. And the great thing is that dogs are allowed here all year round. Well, I've just made my way off the cove, climbing uphill, and I come across this derelict church. It's St Andrew's Church, which is just to the south of the castle. Now, previously there was a Saxon church on the site, and then a church was built in 1100, but that had to be rebuilt in 1340 and again in 1404 after French raiders had sailed over and burnt it down. Now, a tower was added in between 1470 and 1475, at which point it was dedicated to St Andrew, but it was eventually replaced by St George's Church that was built to the northwest of Easton between 1754 and 1766. And I believe a bomb damaged it in the Second World War, and there have been numerous landslides since. There's just bare ruins now. Well, after a little bit more of an uphill section, I'm back on high ground, and I can just about see through the trees here Pennsylvania Castle, which was built in Gothic Revival style in 1797-1800 for John Penn, who was governor of Portland, and he was the grandson of William Penn, the founder of Pennsylvania in the United States of America. Anyway, the building became a hotel in 1950, and I think it's been in private hands since the 1990s. I think you can still hire it out though. Well folks, we're well over halfway around, so we thought we'd have a pit stop at the Hayloft Cafe and Bar for a cup of coffee and a slice of chocolate cake, but no crisps just yet. Now, at this point of the walk, we're going to say goodbye to the eastern side of the island and cross over to the western side, to a place called Weston. We've now made our way to Weston, and just what I'm looking at here on the left, there was once a pub called the Prince Alfred Inn. It certainly shows on a 1901 map, and it was established in the mid-19th century, but sadly it closed in 1973 and was demolished. Well, we've now made it to the western side of the island, and this is where we rejoin the southwest coast path and start heading northwards, this time with the sea on our left. And on a day like today, with the sun out, the colour of the sea is that deep blue, quite Mediterranean. And I'd say the landscape around here really is quite stunning. Well, I've probably said wow a few times today, but here we go again. Wow, look at this. It's very hard to put this scene into words, but obviously there's Chesil Beach. And well, the number of times we've seen that on Dorset walks in the past along that coast. Now, Logan is very much on a short lead along this section of the water. As you can see, it's a long way down, so we're going to keep very close to the path. Just to the right of me here is Blacknor Fort, also known as the West Wares Battery, built between 1900 and 1902, replacing a much earlier battery that was here since the 1870s. And it operated during both World Wars when there were a couple of 9.2-inch guns here. It was all decommissioned in 1956 and is now privately owned. 3 properties were built on the site now. In fact, one actually was built on one of the gun emplacements. And there were 2 smaller gun emplacements for 15-pounders and an observation post on the cliff edge as well. Sorry folks, another little pit stop just to take in this view. Absolutely love it here. I mean, obviously the weather makes a big difference, but oh, it's gorgeous, isn't it? Now, as well as being on the southwest coast path, which is that 630-mile long-distance path that goes from Minehead in Somerset all the way down to Poole in Dorset, we're also on the Hardy Way, which is a 230-mile long-distance path that winds its way through Dorset, linking places that have got a connection with the author and poet Thomas Hardy. And it starts at Higher Bockhampton, where he was born, and finishes at Stinsford Churchyard, where his heart is buried. Now, this is the last section of our walk. It's the TOUT, I think that's how you pronounce it, TOUT Quarry Sculpture Park, run by the Portland Sculpture and Quarry Trust, a very popular tourist destination. I think there's something like 60 hidden sculptures here. And originally it's one of 80 working quarries on the island. This one, I think, started back in 1750. And the sculpture park started in 1983 and has been given back to artists. I think it was originally going to be developed for housing. Anyway, let's have an exploration. Now, what have we got here? The Roy dog. Well, the one on the left looks quite ferocious, but the one on the right looks sweet enough. Extraordinary sculpture. What an amazing place to explore. I think this bear here is my favourite. Right, not too far to go. The car park is just over the other side of the ridge. Well folks, we're nearly back to the car. We were just passing by the Heights Isle of Portland Hotel, so I thought I'd pop in purely for research purposes, for the video of course, to check out their ale. They've actually run out of ale, so this is Portland Lager. Very tasty it as well. And of course it's crisp time. Burts today rather than Pipers. Well folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We thought we'd do the end scene here down by that little cove underneath the castle with the waves crashing against the rocks. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. So until we meet again, thanks for watching and cheerio. Good boy.